Hi there, Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. Today I'm going to be reviewing the new Studio 71 alcohol brush markers. And these are pretty new. I just saw them advertised a couple of weeks ago, and it's like as soon as I saw them advertised, a viewer emailed me and asked me if I would review them. And at first glance, I thought they were just like any double-ended marker that was like a bullet on one side and a chisel on the other, because they looked an awful lot like my Color It markers, which I like, but again, it's a bullet and the brush tip on the marker. And I'll just show you kind of for size comparison. These are designed for the coloring book industry, and these are more of an art marker. So these Studio 71s are a little bit smaller. They're about the same size as a COPIC. And I'll show you the tips. We have a brush tip on one end, and we have a chisel tip on the other. So I found the tips to be very similar to the other brush tip art markers such as COPIC, the Blick Studio, the Pro Marker, Prismacolor, and these would be the Color It ones, because I know you've seen me review those before. And those are probably a little more useful for a coloring book because they have the tiny bullet tip. But since somebody asked me to review this, I contacted the company and they sent me this set to check out. And I did take a chance to take a second to look around their website to see what other sets were offered. And they did offer a variety of sets, but I'll tell you, there are some duplicates between the sets. So this set of 48 has 48 colors, no blender. The blender is available on its own. These run about $1.04 a piece when you buy them in a set. So this was $49.95. And free shipping, so pretty inexpensive. And I did just kind of look in the what they offer for sets. They have a skin tone set. All of the skin tones are in this set of 48. They have an earth tone. Again, they're all in that 48. Bold primaries are all in this set, and also the set of 12 and 24. All those colors would be in this set. So I just wanted to tell you that in case you were going to buy a couple packs of smaller ones to try them out. I just wanted to let you know where your duplications are going to be. This is definitely goes more along the lines of an art markers line, where if you buy the set of 12, that set of 12 is going to be in the set of 24, and so on and so forth as you go through the larger sets. The only company that doesn't do that I'm aware of would be the Spectrum Noir, which is actually distributed by the same company, Darice. That's who Studio 71 comes from. But with Spectrum Noir, you don't have any duplicates. If you buy a pack of 6 of reds and then you buy a pack of 24 assorted, you're not going to have any duplication. So that is a unique feature of the Spectrum Noir markers that I haven't seen any other company do, and I really like that they do that amongst all of their product lines. So that, I really like that. There's also a gray set that contains 3 grays that are not in this set. It has a bright primary set that has 3 colors, 2 yellows and a red that's not in this set. The blue tones have 2 blues that's not in this set. But definitely the best bang for your buck is to get the set of 48, because they're about $1.04 a marker in the set of 12, 24, or 48, but you'll end up with duplicates if you get a smaller pack and decide that you want to get that pack as well. I did look on the Darice wholesale website, and it does look like these are going to be offered open stock because they're available to retailers individually by color, and I think there's about 70 colors. So that's kind of encouraging that if by the time you use one of these up, you will be able to go and purchase it. And I was really pleased with the colors. I swatched them out onto the paper that I typically use just so I'd see how they really look. I did find the coating on the ends to be quite close, although some were a little bit off. So you know, you definitely want to swatch things out on your own paper before you make, you know, just to have that reference, because if you're coloring something and you're looking at the ends of the caps instead of what it actually looks like, you could be in for a surprise on an almost finished, you know, card or a piece of artwork. So that would be my tip. No matter what you have for markers, do that. I did compare them with these other markers here. I've recorded this video like 3 times. I'm trying to get it just to like the most useful information. These are the other brush markers that I have, and I just want to show you the size comparison. Okay, so we've got our Winsor Newton brush marker, which was formerly the Letraset Pro marker brush marker, the Spectrum Noir, the new kind, the Spectrum Noir, the old kind, the COPIC Sketch, the Blick art marker, the Prismacolor brush marker, and the Sharpie brush marker. My least two favorite out of this would be the Sharpie and the Prismacolor, just because their tips drag a little bit more than the others. The Copic does seem to me to be a little bit more flexible. However, it might just be because I've had this marker for years, so it could just be because I've used it so much that it's a little more flexible. And I'll just show you this one here right next to it. You know, this one's not quite as flexible, but then again, it's brand new. So keep that in mind. I think for the money, this is probably the best deal you're going to find on a brush marker. I did go through and just really quick check prices on what I found, like for kind of the typical price what we pay, not list, because nobody pays $8 for a Copic. We look around, we find it on sale for, you know, $5 or $6. So the Copic is definitely the most expensive, running around $6 on sale. The Prismacolor runs about $3 to $4, you know, typically. The Blick ones, depending if you buy them in a set or if you buy them individually, can run anywhere between $1.50 and $3. These are a great buy too, don't get me wrong, I really like those. These are probably some of the best buys. These are often on sale. I think these are on sale this week actually on Consumer Crafts, where these came from for like a 6-pack for $6. And you can get a brush tip for these, just like you can get replacement brush tips for Copics. But the replacement brush tips for either of these are like $2 a pop. So it's, you know, you could get 2 brand new markers for the cost of just the replacement tips. And to tell you the truth, I've never had to replace the tip on any of my markers, and there's only like maybe 4 Copics that I would need refills for, and you know, those are super light colors that I use quite a bit, and all markers play nice together, so don't feel like, well, I already have 20 Prismacolors, I guess I'm stuck buying Prismacolors for the rest of my life. Well, buy them if you like them, but they're gonna mix with all these other markers. They're all alcohol based, they all work together, they all play fine together, they'll all mix together as long as you have colors that are close to each other, so don't feel like you're locked into one brand or the other. Like, so these you can find on sale for as low as $1 a piece, and I think individually they're probably like $2 a piece. They're definitely the cheapest. And the Winsor Newton brush marker is about $4. And those are the prices you're typically going to pay. List price will be a little bit more, but I just wanted to give you what you're really gonna pay, because you know, who goes and pays, you know, top dollar when they can find it, you know, for less. So I've reviewed these all in the past. You can find that on my art material reviews. I will mention them as it's appropriate in this review, just keeping things relevant. Pretty much when you're looking at art markers, when you're looking at alcohol pens, I have to say what's going to end up on the paper is pretty much the same between whatever brand you decide to invest in. The big difference, I think, in the use of the markers and how easy they are to work with and blend are the nibs, and specifically having a brush tip. Like the one thing, like even though Prismacolor is not my favorite, the one thing I'll tell you about them is that they have a bullet tip and a brush tip, and I always liked those the most. I always liked a bullet tip and a brush tip the most. But the more that I use them, the more I realize I actually really like a chisel tip for lightening and highlighting and forcing blends. If I happen to be working with a limited palette and I don't have kind of some of those in-between colors that that I would need. So I want to show you here on this, and I'll show you here on this example as well, because greens blend quite easily, and you know, reds, violets, and blues are a little bit trickier to blend, especially if you have a big gap between colors. I'm not sure why, especially anything with a red in it, that tends to be a more difficult color to blend. But I wanted to show you the difference between these two samples right here. So how I typically color on a coloring card, if I have a large variety of markers, is I go in with the darkest color and I put in my darkest shadows, which would be, I think, B9 in this case, and then I would go in with my medium, and in this case it's B17, and then I would go in with my light, and I would kind of blend kind of out from darkest to lightest, and that would be B1. And I found that those, because there's such big jumps, and I'll show you, this is B1, and this is B9, and that's B17, there's a huge jump in between those colors. So when I have a situation like this, and I'll show you in the second demo here, the second thing I colored. If you start off by coloring it all one color and then going in with your dark and your medium, you're going to get a much softer blend, and it's going to favor the lighter color because that's what you colored in first. And the same thing over here, I started in with the darks for this one, and then did my light medium, and I got more dark influence. And on this one I started by coloring it all with a light, then doing dark and medium, and I got it lighter. Did I say that? I went dark, medium, light on this one. This one I went light, dark, medium. And I'm going to show you that right here in this, on this last shell. The colors I used here was YG7, and that is my darkest. I used BG3, and that was my lightest, and I used YG2, and that was in the middle. And this is one of those situations where the colors are a little deceiving on this, because like this right here is BG3. Look how much darker the marker tip looks. Okay, that's why you want to swatch it out. And look at this one right here, this YG2. This almost looks like a mint on the end of the cap, but it's definitely more of a lime when you look at it. It's got a more of a yellow favoring there when you look at it swatched out. And then the YG7 is pretty good. But that's, you know, and most of them are closer than that, but I just wanted to use these to illustrate that you really should swatch them out so you'll have an easier time coloring with them. So, and these are general tips to go with whatever brand you have. I'm reviewing these specifically, you know, and I'll put more in the printed information in the video description, and I'll scan my swatches and my blending recipes so that you can have that on my website in a day or two, so you'll have that resource. So when you have colors that either you're going with you're jumping between a large variety of colors, so that's my lightest, that's my darkest, that's a pretty big jump to make. You want to start off by priming your image. So if you're using, and this is really good, especially no matter what markers you're using, if you have inexpensive like office supply store cardstock, like the Georgia Pacific, which is my everyday cardstock, this will allow you to get a really nice blend without having to go to the expense of buying special cardstock. If you are working, this is Nina, by the way, but if you are working on a cheaper cardstock, leave yourself a little gap between the outside edge and where you're coloring on this layer, otherwise it might flood out beyond your stamped line. So there's another little tip for you. So that's my lightest, it's BG3. Then I'm going in with my darkest, and this is called Sage. And I'm going to go in and put these darker lines in. But since I've pre-wet the area by priming it with my lightest color, it is going to be a little bit easier to blend. You can always go back and add more dark too, so don't freak out about it. Now I'm going in with my middle value, and I am going to go over the darks and blend them out a little bit. I like to have that kind of a little bit of a darker area on the outside. It helps make it feel a little bit fuller and rounder, but I'm definitely going to go over any of the dark colors and pull that ink out a little bit. And I've got another little trick. I'm going to show you what I told you about the clear blender. Since I've recorded this video a couple times, I don't even know. I have to try to remember, what did I show you already and what didn't I? And so then if I want to go back in and lighten anything, I can go in with my lighter marker, but I'll go in with the chisel end, and that will just help me force any colors that I want to. If I feel like I want to lighten up a little area, I can go in like that. But the real neat thing is to go in with your clear blender and on the chisel end, and you can actually go in and really highlight. So what this is doing is actually just pushing the pigment out of your highlight areas. It's just going to push it to whatever it's closest. And since everything is still wet, it is going to blend. It's going to, you know, you're not going to dry with those hard edges. Oops, and I should have put something underneath here, but luckily I didn't bleed through onto my table. But you can see the back of your cardstock, how you know it's going to blend pretty well when you do saturate the cardstock like that, because it keeps the ink wetter longer. Now with this marker, this clear marker, what I can do is I can fix mistakes. And I had done it here. I had a big mistake, not mistake, but a big squiggle out on this guy here, but I just erased it. I'm going to show you on this one next to it here, just because I really think this is a fun technique. Let me zoom in a little bit. So say you go out of an image that you colored and you're like, oh shoot, I just ruined this thing and I wanted to put this on a card. What you can do after it's completely dry, and I colored this like 2 days ago, you just keep coloring over to like the mistake, color it towards your image. and you can kind of push that in, especially if it's not too dark. Now this is a really dark color, that E10, but I'm able to almost erase it. Now if I had done it like right after I'd colored it, once it's dry but not, I didn't let it sit too long, it would almost completely disappear. And as that dries, it's going to lighten right up and just disappear, and you're able to bring something back to its edge so you can fix any mistake that you might have made. So I really give these a 10 out of 10 for value, and I think the color choices that they put in this set is really good. If you look at all these colors were made just from the 48 set and the clear blender. I think that gives you a remarkable assortment of colors and combinations that you can work with. And I mean, you could come up with more. You could do blends with grays and then glaze over with another color so that you can get even further shades. If you're someone who does like to work with a lot of grays, you may find that a little limiting because you've only got 2 cool grays, you've got 1 warm, and you've got 3 neutrals. So that might be a little limiting, but they do have a gray pack. You probably might be better off to wait for the open stock, get the set of 48 and add a few from the open stock so that you can have a good variety. But I think they did a really great job at choosing colors that were going to give you a really good variety. Like there's a set of bright primaries that has an extra red and 2 extra yellows, but I honestly found those 2 yellows to work really well, and I thought there was plenty of reds in this collection. And like I was able to use 1 red and those 2 yellow reds to make this, and then I use those same 2 colors with a yellow to be able to do that. So, you know, you can really blend and get some interesting combinations, especially if you take my tip about using your lightest color, coloring that first, then going dark to light again, because you'll get that smoother transition even though you're making a big jump between colors. And like I said, that tip goes to whatever markers you're using. So, I mean, if you already have markers, there's no need to go and replace them, but I do think this is a great set if you're just getting into it or you're looking to get a gift for somebody that is getting into rubber stamping and coloring with markers. And it's really, you really can't beat it. They're just over $1 a marker, and I don't know how, if that's their regular price is $49.99 or if it's going to go up or if it will go on sale. I'm not sure, but I think it's a really wonderful deal. If you already have these, you of course can get brush tips for them if you want to try that out, especially maybe for some of those colors that you feel like you just want to blend be able to blend a little bit more. And the other thing I want to say is that you can blend with the bullet and chisel tips on your other markers. It just takes a little more practice. It's easier with a brush tip, but it's not absolutely necessary. So kind of weigh your pros and cons and decide if it's right for you. Like I mentioned, I will scan these so you can have my little color recipes. I mean, I do have kind of chicken scratch handwriting, but I think you can probably make it out. And I'll scan my my swatch. Although if you get these, swatch them for yourself on the paper you usually use so that you will know what to expect. I think that pretty much covers it. I'm really pleased to have these. I think these would be great to bring in my travel bag because I can get so many mixes. If I was stamping at a friend's house or scrapbooking at a friend's house, I have enough where I'm not going to feel like I am missing out because I don't have, you know, shade E000 in COPIC or something, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like there's definitely enough here to get pretty much any mix that I would want. Might take a little bit longer than if I had, you know, 20 shades of brown, but it's got what you need. So it's got a great thumbs up from me. You can let me know what you think in the comments below, and if you have any questions specifically about these markers, you can go ahead and leave it in the video description as well. I'm sorry, in the comments below as well. And if you've tried these, you can obviously leave your comment below. And the stamp I used is from this set from Stampendous. It is a lot of really fun nautical images. I used Memento Tuxedo Black as my stamping ink because it never feathers when I color over with Copic markers or any alcohol pens. I'm sure there are other ink pads that do really well with this, but that's the one I always gravitate to. And the paper that I used is a Nina Classic Crest, 80 pound in Solar White, super smooth. And I will link to all of these things. And I'll also link to Gina K's Pure Luxury cardstock if you want a heavyweight card for single layer cards that won't bleed through. Her heavyweight Pure Luxury cardstock is wonderful for markers and it doesn't bleed through. So I'll put all those resources in the video description, and I hope you found it helpful. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and until next time, happy crafting.